Welcome to the Minds on a Mission podcast, the podcast where we explore the journeys that challenge us, change us, and chart the best course for our best selves. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music / Audible, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Deezer, Podbean, Buzzsprout. Long list, I know. I'm your host, Samantha Bailey, an entrepreneur and content creator. And today's wonderful guest, I have Juliette Alemany. I hope I'm saying that right. Say hi, everybody. I know you guys can't actually do that, but just virtually say hi. So I wanted to ask you how your day was today.
Well, hi Samantha. So first of all, I'm based in Thailand, so my day has been very short today. I just woke up recently. But yeah, I'm fresh and full of energy. I'm really glad to be able to speak about leadership topics. It's something that really matters to me. So I'm really excited about today.
Yes, I am excited as well. And with a little bit of what you said just now, I usually at the beginning ask my guests if they could tell us a little more about themselves. So if you could give a little more in depth, like your background and your passions, whatever you want to share.
Sure. Maybe I'll start with my passions. I like to switch it up a little bit. So I'm a passionate scuba diver. It's always been my number one passion. I also love dancing, Brazilian zouk. I also do pole dance, and I love cooking. I'm French, and I just love baking offshore, of course. In terms of career, so as a child, I always wanted to be a data scientist because I was passionate about the sea and I wanted to work on fish. So I did all my studies. I did an agronomy engineering school. I did a PhD in data science. And then I specialized really on data science applied to fisheries. I was working for the European Union. And what happened is there was a moment in my career where I realized that I wanted to switch towards the private sector because I felt that in research, things were not going as fast as I wanted to. And it was not possible to have enough ownership on, the decision-making process. So I moved to Thailand and I joined a small company that was working on sustainable agriculture. And what happened is the manager resigned very shortly after I joined the company. So there was an opportunity to take his place. And for me, I had zero experience in management, so it was pretty scary. But I just took the leap and I started. And it's been it's been a journey because when it's your first time, there's a lot of challenges you experience. But I tackled this journey and I really quickly progressed. I made the company bigger and I had to hire more people, improve the processes. Um, and now today, so I became the CEO of the company. It took me 5 years to get there. It was never the goal, right? It's just basically the mean to have a fulfilled team, a company that has impacts. For this, I had to become a leader. So the situation made me a leader, I would say. After that, I realized that a lot of people came to me for help, advice, support. So I decided to become certified as an executive coach and then help people on the side. So that's not my main business, executive coach, but I really enjoy doing it on the side. Yes.
I love everything you just shared. And if you guys haven't seen her page, I've seen some of the videos of you dancing and I'm always like, you just look so beautiful and I love watching it. It looks like so much fun. Um yeah, so I want to get more in depth into a lot of the other stuff, but since we're talking about dancing, I kind of wanted to know what sparked your interest into dancing and can you tell us more about that?
First time I got interested in dancing, it came out of a will to heal something in me. So I had a little trauma of not feeling okay with being touched too much or with being too close to someone, looking too much in the eyes and being close to someone. And couple dancing, well, is all about that, right? So I'm talking salsa, bachata, kizomba, so more these Latin dances. And I went to a party and I saw people being so comfortable, like dancing together, interacting. And I realized I wanted to learn that. I wanted to overcome this fear of mine. So I went to a class and then another class. And over time, dance really helped me with that. And then I started to just go deeper into this activity. And in couple dancing, you have the leader and the follower. So usually the leader is a male. So the men will lead the dance, which means they will decide which moves are coming next. And the women, they learn to detect, to identify what are the signals to trigger one or two moves, and then they will follow. But you can also invert the roles. So you can have women deciding to be leaders, and then the men will follow, or women and women dancing together, men and men dancing together. You can do what you want, right? Especially in Brazilian zouk, it's very common to switch roles. And I explored that, and I started to make parallel with life. How interesting it is when you manage to establish a very clear communication channel with the other and a clear connection, and you start to use empathy, you start to connect with the other, you can understand what they want to do. You can, as a leader, propose a move instead of imposing it, I would say, and the follower can decide to follow or can decide to improvise something else. And I just started to really love this dynamic. And it's funny because I think leading, following concepts, I started to learn it in dance actually. And later in my job, I realized, oh wait, this can actually help me in my job.
That, I mean, just hearing that, and so my first thoughts is I had another guest who also, it was very similar, got into dancing. It was just to explore, healing, or just intimacy, sorry, I can speak. And just how that kind of plays a role into different aspects of your life. It was very similar, and it just made me think, like, it's so beautiful how these different things in life can, like, come together, and how it's just, I don't know, like, it's just perfect. Like, I always like explain, like, it's like the perfect puzzle pieces just, like, come together, and it just fits beautifully. And so I love that, and it definitely makes me think more about, like, I want to get into dancing and do
I
more
think
fun
you
stuff like
do.
that. I think it would be lots of fun. So, I know we talked a little bit about dancing. Sorry, if you could just repeat, what were the other things you said were your passions? So you said dancing, and then
Scuba diving. Scuba
scuba diving.
diving. Yeah, it's been a lifelong passion for me. Yes.
Okay. Could you tell me more about that? Like, how you got into scuba diving?
Sure. So basically, my parents. So I grew up in Reunion Island. So it's a French island next to South Africa. So it's in the Indian Ocean. And my parents, they built a scuba diving club, and in their free time, they would teach people to dive just for free as a volunteer. They did really cool actions also where they, engaged with children from the island who maybe came from families that had less money and couldn't afford this type of activities. And then they brought them and taught them to dive. And what I've observed in the activities they were doing is that they would sometimes take children who had zero self-confidence, zero self-esteem. And then because they were taught to dive, which is usually an activity that, they would never dream to do that, they actually started to gain a lot of self-confidence, and they started to believe in themselves much more because they could do that. They could actually do that, and everything becomes possible once you manage to overcome certain fears. So it was very inspiring for me. And of course, because, I was in the environment surrounded by my parents and all their friends dancing, I started to dive at 7 years old, actually. And my father was teaching me, and then I just kept doing my certification until getting the dive master certification. Um, and I really love in diving the fact that once you enter the water, there's no noise anymore. There's only the silence of the water. And your body becomes weightless because you're carried by the water and nothing else matter anymore. So to me, it's exactly the same as meditation. If I'm in the water, my body completely relaxes and my mind becomes like blank, you know, just nothing going on, just enjoying the moment, being 100% present in the moment. And I guess in my everyday life, if I have some moments when I'm a little bit too stressed, one method I have is closing my eyes and thinking back to these times where I was diving and just like enjoying the moment and seeing the turtles and the fish and the manta rays and feeling this sense of profound, fulfillment and profound relaxation.
I appreciate you sharing that. That was beautiful. And it's like with everything you're sharing, it's like I need to go out and explore like cool things like this because I feel like growing up I didn't really do a lot of fun things like that. But I definitely relate in the sense of like I love going to the beach, so I can relate in the aspect of like I love the sounds of the water. It's very calming, but I've never gone diving. And so I'm like, these are things that like I need to experience because it's like just hearing you talk about it, it's like I really want to try that. So I
That's
appreciate you.
great. And I love when people try it and then they tell me about their first time. It's usually like, yeah, magic moments.
Do you feel like you connected with a lot of people over diving? You built like a community through that, or
Yes, I did. I actually did. I think when you meet people who share the same passion, you have like this like mutual understanding of we know how good it feels to do this or that, and just we share this passion. So you kind of speak the same language. You start with a bigger basis than someone who doesn't share passion with you.
I get that. And it's so nice to like have different communities for different things because it just like again like it's like well rounded, like you just know that you really want to connect with people in this area, you can go and do that, which is really cool. um
Agreed.
so I was thinking back to when you were talking about earlier on in your journey and you said that you were a data scientist. Could you tell us a little more about that and how you got started in that and your talk more about your progression?
Yes. So basically, I think I was maybe like 8 years old when I decided one day I want to save the fish. And then I remember I was talking about it with my friends, at school, and I was like, yeah, I want to be a scientist to save the fish. So it was kind of this childhood dream. And I think when you have like this big dream and you hold on to it, it makes it easier to go through the steps to get there, even though sometimes they might be difficult. I mean, the studies, it was not always easy, and doing a PhD is definitely not a piece of cake. But I really had this dream in me, so that really pushed me to continue and to finalize this. Um, what is interesting is that, all the data science part, at the end of the day, it was really the tool, the step to achieve the mean. The mean was really to work with the fish and to try to do something to save some of the fish population. Um, and along my journey, there's been some moments that were very stressful to get there. And dancing has helped me a lot, specifically during the PhD. There were moments where, you just think only about work and the deadlines and of course you have self-doubt constantly. So you need sometimes to, shut your mind. And some people do meditation. I've done it a little bit. I have to admit I'm not very good at it. But for me, dancing was very, very helpful.
That I struggle a little bit with answering, so I'm sorry about that. So I had a couple thoughts. I really like that you knew at such a young age like what you wanted to do, and that's driven you throughout your career and really has helped you with your success. I know that sometimes people have dreams, but they just kind of get wrapped up in things and throw their dreams away. So it's really, really nice to get to talk to people and be like, I've had similar thoughts, or, I've had struggles, but like this is how like I worked through it. So that led me to my next thought that I wanted to ask about imposter syndrome, because a lot of people struggle with imposter syndrome. And so I wanted to ask if you could share some signs that people might be experiencing, and some strategies you recommend for overcoming this.
Sure. So that's a big topic. Uh, for my life, it's been a big topic first, but also like, coaching people. It's something that comes very often. First of all, let's discuss a little bit what is imposter syndrome.
Yes.
So it's some kind of like it's something that we experience, psychological event that we experience, where we stop really doubting our accomplishment. We start doubting whether we are legitimate to be in the position where we are today and to do what we are doing today. And we constantly have this fear, which is inside of us, right? It's an internalized fear. We have a fear of always being judged by others, and we have a fear of being exposed by others as being a fraud because we feel that we're not legitimate. And this can happen in so many contexts, right? It's not only about work, it can happen for mothers, for example. Like, I'm not supposed to be a mother. Like, I'm not good at it. Like, I'm going to be exposed. People are going to find out I'm actually a bad mom. Things like that, these type of voices in your head. And it can, on the long term, if you like, if you don't work on this imposter syndrome, it can really affect your mind in a very negative way. And it can really lead to really bad consequences like depression. So it's important to recognize it. So how are we going to identify this? Um, my first advice is to look at your body, right? Because usually when we feel anxious, when we feel like scared, the body is the first one who will tell you something is wrong. There's going to be some changes. There's going to be a knot in your belly constantly, and you don't even know why. You can't pinpoint where it comes from. Your muscles are stressed, you don't sleep well, maybe you don't digest well. So there's all kind of signs that your body are going to, to try to show you, to warn you. Now you want to try to pinpoint when do these body reactions happen. For example, for new managers, it might happen every time they conduct a meeting with their team and they start feeling like the body's telling themselves, you're feeling anxious, you're feeling scared. Okay, so you want to start to write down when does this happen so that afterwards you can come back to it and be, okay, now why does it happen? Okay, why do I feel scared of being judged? Why do I feel like I'm not legitimate? So a lot of the signs are going to be body. And in your mind, you're going to start to have some voices of self-doubt. So every time you do something, you might start questioning, can I actually do that? Like, I'm not sure I can, right? Do I even have the expertise to do that? You might experience some kind of what I call decision avoiding um, behavior. So that means that, you're in a position where you're supposed to make decisions and you're starting to delay them. You're starting to just like do something else, postpone the decision making process, and it can have very bad consequences. Yet you don't know why you can't make the decisions. And this happens often because when we have the imposter syndrome, we are scared that we're going to make the wrong decision because we don't believe we can make the right decision, right? You might start feeling scared also to take on new actions because you fear that you're gonna fail. And you might start also saying things like, "Oh, but this success wasn't thanks to me. It's just the environment." So you start picking outside elements to justify the success instead of taking ownership and being like, "Yeah, because I did that, this succeeded." Okay, so there's a lot of other symptoms. I don't want to go on and on, but these are, I would say, the main ones that you can start to identify. Now, the second part of your question was like, how do we overcome that? Well, first of all, let's acknowledge that most people will experience the imposter syndrome many times in their life. And let's acknowledge that it's normal. There's nothing wrong about you. We all go through it. And sometimes you might conquer it and then you enter in a new role, a new position, and it comes again. And that's fine. That's okay. It's not like a terrible thing. Now, what you want to do is learn how to overcome it again and again and again, and it becomes easier. So it comes and then you know what to do. So, first of all, you want to acknowledge it. I see too many people who experience the imposter syndrome. And when you try to open the door, they're like, not at all. I'm 100% confident. I don't have this. And when you refuse to acknowledge it, then of course the process of overcoming is just much longer. So you want to acknowledge it. And as I mentioned before, you want to journal a little bit to understand where it comes stronger in which situations. Then you want to talk about it. So that's where it's very handy to have a mentor, a coach, or even like colleagues, right, who are close to you and who are non-judgmental. So share your feelings, share why you feel this way. Um, and most of the time, even someone who's not a coach, I bet they can help you because most of the time they will look at you and be like, but you actually succeeded very good at this. You were doing amazing at this. And just this is helpful because you're like, wait, I am telling myself a different story than what other people see about me. There's a gap. How do I bridge this gap? Right? Um, Another thing you want to do is kind of like rephrase everything you're saying. So if you have in your mind some moments and you want to be aware of it, you hear yourself telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm not good at this, I'm not rephrase it. It's like I don't know yet how to do this exactly. And that's okay. But I'm good at learning, right? And you can help yourself by starting to journaling also about the moments in your life when you were in situations where you didn't know exactly what to do. You didn't have the expertise, but you actually managed to learn fast enough to be good at it. And I'm sure if you look at all your life, you're going to have so many examples of that. So what this is teaching you is that maybe your new position, maybe you don't have all the expertise you need for this. But if you look at your life experiences, you can see that every time you were in a situations where you didn't have the expertise, you managed to overcome this and learned. So you know how to learn. That's all you need. You just need to know how to learn, adapt. And one last thing, just be honest. Not only about with yourself, but be honest with others. Like I know for me, in my career when I had new jobs and new positions, it was important to me to communicate with my team. I'm not sure exactly if this is the right way to do it. I'm going to try this. Are you okay to follow me? Right? You're proposing. Are you okay to follow me? Yes. Okay. Let's try this together. And let's reassess if it wasn't the best way, then maybe we try something else. And this honesty will not only make other people trust you more, it will also make your imposter syndrome go a notch like lower because now you're not trying to pretend to be someone you're not. You're just being honest, right? You're like, hey, I got this job, I got this position, don't know exactly what to do, but I can promise I'm going to do my best to learn fast and to lead you. That's it. Hope that helps.
Yes. Juliet, that was very well said. And I feel like I know a lot of people are going to really appreciate that segment, especially because, like you said, that is something that everybody goes through multiple times throughout their life. And so, I mean, just a lot of things you were saying real quick, and it's like, yes, I definitely remember moments of feeling that. And especially, too, with you talking about, like, if you're in a new position, I just started a new position somewhere. So, like, that part really resonated with me as well because I noticed, yeah, a lot of things where um, maybe in the past I wouldn't have responded the same way, but I'm definitely responding in the sense of, like, okay, well, I know that I may not be confident about this, but like I'm gonna talk about it, and like you said, just be honest, which like just made me think about also you said of acknowledging certain things you've done in your life and the progress you've made. So I really appreciated everything that you just shared, and so it made me think, were there any specific moments in your life that you really remembered having imposter syndrome, and what certain techniques that you just explained that you applied specifically?
Oof, there's so many.
Right.
Just
I mean,
hard,
like
hard to pick.
major ones, yeah, that you're maybe you could think of.
Yeah. I guess, I guess over time it became easier. So every time I felt it didn't feel like a big deal because I knew how to handle it. So I would say that the the hardest one were in my when I was younger because
Right.
I didn't really have the tools yet. So I would say maybe as a data scientist, like I think when I just got the title PhD, and I mean, some people make a big deal out of it. I don't know, and they're like, "Oh, you're a doctor." And then I started to feel scared. I was like, "Oh, what does that even mean? Does that mean that I'm supposed to know everything? Does that mean that I'm supposed to be an expert? And like, if they ask a question and I don't know the answer, am I like ridiculous?" I started to have these thoughts in my mind, um, which, when I think about it, is so funny because I mean, being a scientist doesn't mean you know everything. It just means the topic on which you did your research, but you're not going to know anything about something that has nothing to do with your research. Um, so that was a big challenge for me. And well, to be honest, the one person that helped me a lot is my career coach. Because she's the one who, did sessions with me, and she's the one who really gave me the tools to understand what was going on and to understand that my life didn't have to be this way all the time and to be like, no, I'm not supposed to have this title, and then I don't want to be judged for having a PhD or whatever. So she really helped me to like use certain tools to just endorse it and be like, this is what I did, just own it, be proud of it, but don't brag about it neither. Just like, that's just one part of your life, that's it. And it doesn't mean you need to know everything, it doesn't mean you're an expert on everything. It just means you have developed certain skills on a specific research area. Maybe it will help you on some other things in your life, maybe not, and that's okay. Yeah.
I understand that. And then it's great to have people like that, like you said, your mentor in your life to help you with things like that in your life. So it made me think, you do coaching. So I wanted to ask, as a mentor to women aiming for executive roles, what challenges do you think are most pressing for women in leadership today, and how can they be addressed?
Okay, so when I think about leadership for women, well, first of all, maybe it's important to say that it's not going to be the same challenges depending on the industry. So what I have observed is there are some industries, I'm going to name it finance, where it can be very challenging for women to identify male role models because there's more men who are positioned as leaders. Um, yeah, you have a few industries like that where for a woman who just starting her career, it's just hard to imagine she could become a manager and executive because she doesn't see many women in these positions. So it's just even hard to envision this as a possible world. And I think it's already hard to like step up in your career and like access leadership roles. It's hard. So if you don't have a facilitating environment, it makes it even harder, I would say. Um, So that's one first thing. And that's why I really believe that it's important that we have more and more women who join the boat, who embark on this journey, and who start to come into leadership roles, leadership positions, so they can become an inspiring example for other women. I think a second challenge I've observed is that sometimes when women become leaders, they try to mimic how a man would lead. And it's linked to the first challenge, right? Maybe they didn't have many examples of other women leading, or maybe they have examples of women who lead mimicking men and maybe using a little bit too much like imposing and controlling and not enough empathy, not enough listening and proposing. Um, I don't want to be stereotypical neither, because I've seen many men who are amazing at leading with empathy as well. Like I have to say, but I really observe this tendency for some women when they become leaders. There's a fear that they're not gonna manage to do well enough, and so they start to be a little bit too strong in like trying to control everything, in trying to show zero weakness, and trying to appear very strong as a very strong person, right? And I really believe like everyone needs to find their leadership style. But I believe being honest and being authentic in who you are as a person, and even starting to be vulnerable, is a better way than just trying to hide your fears and trying to power through and look strong, and then kind of be very authoritative just to mask your fears and to mask your doubts. So I would say that's something I've been observing, and yeah, I really believe that that's also why it's important when you start transitioning to a leadership role to try to find either like maybe your boss can help you, can be a mentor, or it can be an external coach, or even a therapist. Actually, like therapists can help tremendously for these transitions as well.
Yes, and I think everything you just shared it is very vital, and even it made me think too, like you said, even if you are a man, like there's a lot into being a leader, and like you said, empathy and being nurturing and things. So that is a big part of it, because as a leader, people want to come to you for advice and for help in different things, and so you kind of it's just like customer service and just understanding your client. Like it's very similar to that, but it's your relationship with your employees, and so it's just understanding like how to take that but take it into a bigger role. So I very much agree with everything you just shared. And I just wanted to say something real quick. I wasn't sure if you noticed it, but we were having some technical difficulties. Your screen was like glitching. So I
It's
just want to let
so
everyone
bad.
know that we did see that. It seems to be fine now, but I just want to let everyone know I'm not sure what was going
I
on.
think it's on my side. I think it's on my side. I think it's my webcam sometimes has a little glitch. So I'll try not to touch anything and hope it will hold.
No worries. I just was like, what is going on? The whole day is just like flash. I was like, okay. Oh, did it there again. Um, so talking about your transition into being a a leader. Sorry, my brain is like, it's Friday. So what I was gonna ask, what pivotal moments or decisions do you believe were crucial in your rapid career advancement?
I'd say there was one moment where I had to make a very big decision, and it was kind of the type of decision where it would have changed a lot of things going one direction or the other. Um, so as I mentioned, when I joined the company that, when I arrived in Thailand, it was a small company, and they were going in a certain direction, and the cash flow was not very good, and the finances were just like not very good, and I was not in a decision making role when I joined, right? I was just an employee, and there's this time where the cash flow really went too low, and there was a month when we couldn't pay the salaries in time. um, And when this happened, well, first of all, psychologically, it was very hard because I could see everyone in the team like feeling really down and really unsure what's going on. Like, do we still have a future? You have this fear, like maybe the company is just, that's it, it's just gonna close, which honestly I think could have happened. And I had a choice to make. Like, with my studies and my experiences, I could just leave the company and go somewhere else, and just find another job, and that's it. Or I could stay and assess what was possible for me to do. Because it's interesting how sometimes we think we don't have control over many things, but we have more control than we think. We have more room for action than we think, if we really analyze deeper and if we're able to communicate also. So I decided to stay. And I decided that if I stay, then I have to do something. I cannot just like stay and wait. So I started to analyze the data and I started to do much more than what was in my job description. I started to try to understand where the money was going, what was going on, why was things not optimized, was there something I could do to help? And then I also talked with other team members. And one of them, actually, he was an intern. He told me like, oh, there's some money that's going there, and I think maybe it's not a very good idea. So I listened to him, and he really helped me to identify the problem. And then I went to, the founders of the company. And I just bought them the data and I told them, this is what's happening. The money is going there, but this money that we put in here is not bringing back money, which means it's an expense, not an investment. If we continue this way, the company will drown. That's it. We will have to close. However, if we cut this expense and we focus all our activities on this other area that brings money, then we survive. And they listened to me, right? And that was like, to me, that was a turning point for what happened in my mind. Because suddenly, instead of being like, I'm a victim and this is what's happening to me, the environment is bad and blah, blah, blah. Instead of thinking this way, I was like, what can I do? Even if I'm not in a position of making decisions, is there something I can do to change what's happening? And I could. It's not always the case, of course. There are situations where you can't, but in this specific situation, I could. And because I decided to stay, then I started to just take a lot more ownership on everything. And that's also why I became quickly CEO of a company. And I wasn't scared anymore to take this role and take this responsibility because I knew I was able to do it. Right. So yeah, that was the turning point for me.
That was very inspirational, and how you went about it was amazing. I mean, not a lot of people have that. Like, that's a skill, to be able to identify a problem and to be able to come up with solutions. Like, being an amazing problem solver is like just an amazing thing to have under your belt, like, you know what I mean. So that is really inspirational, and I think a lot of people will really appreciate that advice that you're
Samantha,
giving.
I'm sorry, I'll cut you because this is important to me. So I 100% agree that the problem solving skill is important. But if we look back at this situation, another important skills, and I really want everyone to understand that, is to listen to others. So what happened is also I asked to the team their advice, and someone in the team, it's not, I'm actually not the one who detected 100% the problem. It's someone else in the team, but I was able to listen. And it's someone who never would have gone to management by himself because he was an intern, right? So for me, leadership is about listening because you can't have all the answers. You'll never have all the answers. But if you listen to everyone in the team, you're using much more brain power than just yourself. So for me, that's the core uh, lesson learned here as well.
I like that. And yeah, I do agree with that. Um so talking about that made me think, like, so you're talking about like being a team. It made me think about a question I want to ask you, which is, how do you approach cultivating a positive workplace culture with a diverse team, and what impact has this had on your company's success?
Okay. I think for every team, whether it's like diverse team, many nationalities and gender or not, I think the core element, if you want to have a positive work culture, is to make sure that everyone feel safe at their job. So you want to make sure that they understand that what we expect from them is to do their best, to communicate about difficulties they have, to ask for help. But we never expect them to be perfect. We don't expect them not to make any mistakes. We encourage mistakes. I think that's, to me, is a very, very first step. And then when you see in teams where there's like maybe high diversity and there might be even like cultural differences that lead to some kind of conflicts, what I've observed is that it's not really the cultural differences that is the source of conflict. It's more like the values that are brought in the team by the leaders that make it that make everyone feel unsafe, protective, and therefore start to mistrust everyone around them. So to me, it's not a big difference, to have like many nationalities or not in terms of how you need to act. You really want to make sure that people are happy to come to work. Employees know that the leaders care about them, care about their well-being, and does everything in his power to bring this safety, okay, and to listen to them. So it's simple rules really, but like for example, you wanna observe what is the best situation for like home office vs office days. So for example, like for me, I discussed with the team and we decided to have like, 3 days home office per week, um as like standard for everyone who wish to have 3 days home office per week. But whenever someone has like family issues or anything, they can just take as many home office days as they want. Like someone has an operation, we've had this case, they can stay 2 months at home. They feel like as long as they're doing the work and they're doing their part of the job, then everything else is like more flexible and they're protected to make sure that their interests are taken into account. Now, I do want to say a little thing though about, different cultures. Like I have noticed, and I think like if when you study a little bit management, this is something that we talk about as well. For certain countries, like Asian countries, there's a bigger emphasis for employees on the team culture and thinking as a family unit. So when they join a company, a lot of time they expect, everything to move as a group, as a family, everyone working together. You think of the US, it's kind of on the opposite of the spectrum. So in the US, there's really this culture of individualism. So employees are just focusing on their career, their achievements, and sometimes kind of like really just don't are not gonna really like try to cooperate with others because they're just trying to advance themselves. So this is different mentality, which is obviously linked directly to the culture of the country. And you do want to be aware of that. You don't want to make boxes, right? Because maybe you'll have like someone from the US who's a total team player and someone from like an Asian countries who's like very individual centered. Of course, you don't want to keep the boxes fixed, but it's still good to have this background knowledge and adjust a little bit so that you can put the right people on the right tasks. Um, and my method is just to ask employees, like, what are the tasks that you enjoy doing? What are the tasks that you're good at? And then we start to make a matrix. Okay, I'm good at this and I enjoy this. I'm good at this, but I don't enjoy doing it. I'm not good at this, but I would love to become good at it because I would enjoy it. Bam. And we do this matrix and then slowly redefine together sometimes the job description to adjust a little bit more. And again, that's the skill of listening. You want to listen to what is important for the employees so that you adjust their position and their work better. This will benefit the whole company.
I I like that a lot, and that's something with like my new position that like with a lot of what you said, like I very much am excited about it, and it's because of that fact, like you said, where it's like a family, and it's very different than anything I've ever done previously because, like you said, it was very much like more like they didn't really it didn't feel like they really cared about me or like in my growth, and there wasn't really much room for growth there. So like with my new position, it's very much like what you said, where it's a family and they want to figure out ways to figure out like, okay, so this, like you said, like this is what you're good at or this is what you like this here is how we can help you, and they provide me with like all the resources and stuff. So very much thinking about that, it's like people are way more excited to work for you when they have that type of environment, because it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm going to work. It's like, oh, I'm going to work, and like it's exciting. You get to, be around this people that you consider your family, and it just share the same values. It's very amazing. So I appreciate you going more in depth about that. So I wanted to ask if there were any specific topics that you wanted to talk about, because I know you said there's specific things that you like to share. So I wanted to ask you that.
Well, I have one topic that I really enjoy talking about. Again, because it's something that comes again and again, comes often. Um, I've noticed that, for all of us, we have drivers, right? So it was discovered by an American psychologist. Okay, so his name is Taylor Tybee, and he discovered the 5 drivers that really affect our behaviors, our decision-making process, and basically really can affect our whole life and how we interact with others. So the 5 drivers are: please others, be strong, hurry up, try hard, and be perfect. And I'm not gonna enter into all of them because it would take a lot of time. But I would like to talk just a little bit about the 2 main one that I've noticed really impact people in their career and their life, um, and they go hand in hand. So, and these are also the ones I had, and I'm still working on it. So they're important to me. So there's the be perfect, and there's the please others. Okay, so we'll hear people pleaser, perfectionist. So these are words that are associated with a strong driver on this area. So maybe I'll start with the be perfect driver. So when this driver is tuned very high, how it's going to impact your career? Well, first of all, at the beginning of your career, it might have a positive impact because you're going to be more detail oriented. You're going to have a high standard for yourself, which helps a lot for studies, and which helps a lot for people to, really believe in yourself, trust you, because they know they can rely on you to do a good job. So it helps you. However, as you continue your career and you enter the real world outside of the studies, the be perfect driver can actually be a huge challenge to career progression, because you're starting to, have deadlines that you need to respect. And sometimes you need to handle a report that's not perfect, but just you have to handle it in time. And what happens in your mind is that I cannot give something that's not perfect. So you're like delaying, and you might miss a deadline. Or you might not miss it, but then like not sleep at all for 3 nights, and that's just not good for your mental health, and then it escalates and you have other issues at work, right? um, this be perfect driver can also have a big impact on the decision making process. So think about it. If you always want to do things perfectly, The moment you have to make a decision, there's 1,000 questions that pop in your mind, and you're like, but what if, what if, what if? And is this the best decision or not? And if you're not sure that it is the best decision, you're just not going to make any decision. So we go again in this loop of decision freeze, and you cannot become a leader if you're not able to make quick decisions. In leadership, you just every day you make like 20 decisions every day. You have to be quick. You have to be quick. You cannot constantly have all the information. You do with the best you have. You do with the knowledge you have, and then you see what happens. It was a mistake. Okay, next time I do a different decision, and that's okay. Now, the people pleaser trigger, it goes along with the be perfect driver a lot of times. So a lot of time people have both goes together. So people pleaser means like it's very hard to say no when people ask you something. And initially you feel like you're just being kind, and which is a very good thing, right? Again, this driver is very positive to make friends, to be loved by others. But the problem is when it starts being too strong, and when your sense of self worth is linked to pleasing others. So instead of liking yourself for who you are, you start liking yourself for people praising you or people saying you're kind, and you're looking for that, right? And that can become like pretty negative for yourself, for your mental health. And in the work environment, what happens is you're always going to have colleagues asking, can you help on this? Can you do that? And you say yes one time and two times, and it's outside of your job description, and you keep saying yes. What do you think will happen? Everyone will just keep asking you because, hey, she's nice. She's just saying yes to everything. If you do that, you cannot focus on your own job. You're starting to do things that are outside of your job description, and you cannot focus on, you don't have energy anymore to focus on the future, which is so important for career progression, right? You're in a position, you're doing your job, you're doing a good job, but you always need to leave some space of mind to think about what's the next step? What comes next? What do I need to learn to go to the next phase? So all of these, so the people pleaser, the be perfect, they're gonna really slow you down in your career. So it's important to work on it as soon as possible. And working on it will not only help your career, but it will also help your life. Like honestly, your happiness level. Like for me, it changed everything working on this. Absolutely everything. Just my happiness level went like here. Um, and maybe that's going to be the last point, but just going to touch base on this. But these drivers combined in the work environment, they can also increase the likelihood of going into burnout, which is a very bad condition. When you have a burnout, it's very hard to get out of it. It's very hard to heal. So you want to avoid it. So you want to be proactive about making sure you do everything in your power to not enter in this like wet zone. Okay. You want to stop before you enter the wet zone. And when you have these drivers, you have to know you're much more likely to experience burnout.
That that is wow. Um, I know we're coming up on the hour line, but I wanted to ask, how did you come across this, like the Kaler's drivers?
My career coach.
Okay.
Yes. So I was experiencing a lot of issues when I became manager. Like, I I had this feeling of guilt sometimes of for many things. I was doing certain things. I was making a decision. I was feeling guilty. I was also having a very hard time setting boundaries for myself and just saying yes to everything. Um, and I was starting to feel like, wait, I feel like I'm doing so much work and it's like accumulating. How am I going to survive in this environment? And at first, I really thought like, you always try to blame external factors. I think it's like a human thing. You try to not look inside. You don't want to look at yourself in the mirror. You just try to find excuses around yourself. Um, but eventually, it's important to be honest and be like, wait, I think they are internal factors, and and it's not easy, right? You need to really lower your ego and be like, hey, just forget about your ego. Just try to be honest and try to understand what's going on and what can you do to change something inside of you, to improve the situation. So then, yeah, then I started working with a career coach. And she's really the one who started to point out, as an easy test you can do to assess what are the higher tuned drivers. And then we made a mapping and then we started working on that. And that's what initiated my will to really get specialized in these drivers and specialize in how to soften these drivers. So started to do a lot of research. That's why I went through the certification as well, to make sure that I was able to have all the coaching tools to work on this with different clients. So sorry, my camera is doing the ghost thing again. Like I don't know what to do.
You're okay. I know. I was like, well, it's probably the perfect time to start
Uh,
wrapping up because your camera is like glitching again. Um, so I appreciate everything that you have shared today, and I definitely think there's a lot of things that I want to look into now after we get off this, like the careless drivers and where's the nearest place I could go scuba diving and dancing because I'm very interested. So I wanted to ask one of my last things is where people could find you. Just so if someone wanted to come in contact with you, they'll know exactly what they can do.
okay, so I'd say the easiest thing is just to go on my website. So it's called ladylead.com. So you just write lady and then the middle slash and lead.com. And then you will find all my contact information there. And you can contact me. You have my Instagram, you have the Facebook page, and also the email to reach out to me easily.
Awesome. And I will have that linked with this video and on everything so people can find that. And as for where you guys can find this podcast, I know I did mention that earlier in the video, but just in case you missed that, you can find the Minds on a Mission podcast on almost anything: Facebook, Instagram, X. I think no, I don't think we have a TikTok yet. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. Like I said, there's a lot on there, but you can pretty much find me anywhere. And I wanted to mention this because I haven't mentioned this before, but along in each thing, if you are looking at an episode or listening to an episode, I do have links if you guys want to apply to be a guest, or if you're a viewer and you want to leave feedback. I also have a guest or a viewer feedback survey. This just helps me know what I could work on to make this podcast better. And I also have a guest feedback survey that I do send out so that I can ensure I'm doing everything I can to make this the best possible experience. Um, and as for where you can find my personal links, it's Samantha Bailey on Facebook, and I'll have everything linked. But yeah, you can look up also on, I believe, Instagram and TikTok. It's Sam B Daily Motivation. I'm on LinkedIn. Like I said, I'm pretty much on everywhere. I also will leave my link tree that has some free resources that I found, some courses and stuff. Just because I like to give you guys stuff so that you can do whatever you'd like to do. Look into different courses and stuff. I just like to give those free resources out. So I just wanted to thank you so much again for coming on today. I appreciate it. I know it's kind of early in the morning, so I really appreciate your time. And before we hop off, I just want to ask if you have any closing messages, anything you'd like to say before leaving.
I think my closing message is like, leadership skills are skills that are not going to serve you only in your career, but also in life. And the number one skill is going to listen. Listen to everyone around you, be open minded, and accept feedback. And always know that, you're not here to impose anything, you're not here to control anyone. We are here to help others, and we're here to listen and to support.
Yes, I agree. All right. Thank you so much. And I just want to say something real quick. If you guys hear a noise in the background, it's my cat. She keeps meowing. I'm sorry. Um, but yeah, so I hope you guys have a wonderful night tonight. We appreciate you coming on. And I will see you guys on Monday with Jonathan Hickman. I just don't. The end slide's not set up because I've just been all over the place, so I do apologize about that. But yes, I will see you guys on Monday. So bye. Hope you have a good night.
Bye bye.